Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. If you've been searching for a reproducible blueprint of what 21st century education should actually look like, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're exploring the One Health e-twinning project, and let me tell you, this wasn't just another run-of-the-mill school assignment. It was a massive, transnational initiative that completely reimagined how students interact with science, technology, and, honestly, with each other. We're going to break down exactly how this project took abstract educational goals and turned them into tangible, real-world skills.
Okay, let's dive into this. The ultimate question we're always wrestling with in education is this: how do we actually bridge the gap between traditional, textbook-heavy teaching and the incredibly dynamic, interconnected reality of today's world? Like, how do we take a 14-year-old student and give them the tools to not just memorize facts for a test, but to actively understand the complex web of global challenges? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we go, because the project we're exploring today provides an absolutely brilliant answer.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the One Health concept itself. Second, hands-on digital learning. Third, collaboration across borders. Fourth, prioritizing e-safety. And finally, the chain of impact.
All right, starting with Section 1, the One Health concept.
Before we get into the how, we really need to nail down the what. The whole foundational idea here stems from the Turkey Century Marath model, which is this educational framework that heavily prioritizes holistic, life skills-oriented learning. The educators wanted a theme that was inherently multidisciplinary, so they went with One Health. By definition, this is the understanding that human health, animal health, and environmental health aren't separate, isolated issues. They're actually one profoundly interconnected, unbroken chain. To ground this in real science, the students researched zoonotic diseases, diseases that jump from animals to humans. By grasping that, the students immediately saw how their local environment and the animals in it directly impact their own personal well-being. And this brilliantly illustrates a major pedagogical shift. Just think about the comparison for a second. In a traditional curriculum, subjects are totally siloed, right? You learn biology in one room, the bell rings, and you go learn English down the hall. But the One Health curriculum completely shattered those walls. They seamlessly blended English themes, like sustainability, directly with biology and chemistry outcomes, like biotechnology and fermentation. Suddenly, students were practicing their English communication skills by presenting actual research on ecosystem ecology. It's pretty much the perfect example of an active, interdisciplinary learning model.
Moving right along to Section 2, hands-on digital learning.
Understanding the theory is great and all, but how did these 14 to 18-year-old students actually move from theory into action? Well, they did it through direct physical engagement. Step 1. The students literally cultivated plants, meticulously tracking their measurements and observations. Step 2. They went right into their own kitchens to perform milk and yogurt fermentation, getting first-hand experience with biotechnology. And Step 3. They took all this foundational knowledge and applied it during a technical expert workshop at the Bursa Uludağ University Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. They weren't just reading about veterinary science in a textbook. They were watching theoretical knowledge being applied in the field by actual academic experts. But wait, they definitely didn't stop at physical labs. These students took their digital competence to the absolute max. They actively populated their shared digital workspace, a collaborative platform called TwinSpace, and mastered a whole arsenal of digital and AI tools. We're talking about using Canva to design original logos and thematic posters, using Pixton to create digital cartoons, and even building interactive educational games from scratch using Kahoot and Tarsia. They literally became independent digital producers.
Which brings us to Section 3, collaboration across borders.
So who actually pulled this off? It took 12 partner teachers to break down geographical barriers and unite students from Turkey, Romania, and Croatia. And by utilizing platforms like TwinSpace forums, live Zoom meetups, and Padlet digital boards, they didn't just have students talking at each other. No, they created mixed country and mixed school teams. These transnational teams co-planned activities together, which, as you can imagine, naturally developed high-level soft skills like peer mentoring and brainstorming. They were literally problem-solving as a unified global team.
To really get a sense of the depth of this teamwork, let me give you a specific example. 8 Turkish students from the host school took on Chapter 3 growth stages for a collaborative project. They didn't just write a boring essay, they co-authored and illustrated the cyclical ecological journey of wheat. By integrating Canva and StoryJumper, they turned a pretty standard agricultural topic into this brilliant, engaging digital story,
all while simultaneously leveling up their foreign language skills.
So the crucial point is that this wasn't just some basic homework assignment to be graded and forgotten. The students' work on the wheat cycle became just one chapter of a massive final product, the chain of One Health. This was a 12-chapter collaborative ebook. Each partner school acted as an independent link in the chain, taking total responsibility for a specific chapter. When all the schools merged their parts together, it stood as this incredible, literal monument to their international collective effort.
Okay, Section 4, Prioritizing E-Safety.
Look, whenever you introduce cross-border online communication to teenagers, safety absolutely has to be the #1 priority. And the organizers were incredibly disciplined about this. Data protection, e-safety, and copyright issues were treated as fundamental, non-negotiable red lines for the entire project. Before a single digital poster was even drafted, they jointly established binding project codes of conduct and strict internet ethics rules, basically netiquette, for both the teachers and the students.
Here are the actual reproducible protocols they used to keep everyone secure. First, they required wet-signed parent permission forms, uploaded directly to the system. To protect identities in all shared photos and videos, they strictly used blurred faces or clever back-angle shots. Students were only allowed to use their first names or digital avatars. On top of that, to really maximize digital awareness, they held safer Internet Day activities at the school. And importantly, they ensured total Creative Commons compliance, teaching the kids to only use copyright-free music, photos, and texts.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the chain of impact.
It's easy to make a project sound awesome on paper, right? But how do we know it actually worked? Well, looking at the project's life cycle, you can see how deliberately the pedagogical goals were tracked. They started off with expectation and interest pre-surveys just to gauge where the students were at. Then they executed the physical labs and the academic veterinary workshops. This culminated in the collaborative ebook publishing and ultimately really detailed post-project survey evaluations. The whole journey wrapped up victoriously with an e-twinning day celebration, where the school principal presented the students with achievement certificates. That just proves the strong institutional support they had from top to bottom.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this 100% satisfaction rate. Because the hands-on learning wasn't just trapped in the classroom, the parents were deeply involved. They were literally watching their kids cultivate plants and ferment yogurt right there in their own kitchens. Because they could physically see the learning happening in real time, the parents reported a 100% satisfaction and support rate for the project's activities. I mean, that kind of parent buy-in, that is the absolute holy grail for educators.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the ultimate takeaway, which is the profound transformation of the students themselves. According to the concrete survey data, these students dramatically improved their English communication skills, their digital competence, and their biotechnology literacy. But honestly, more than that, they developed a profound ecosystem awareness. By the end of this project, these students were confidently defining themselves as One Health heroes.
It is just incredibly inspiring to see what happens when you combine interdisciplinary science, robust digital tools, and genuine international collaboration. So, to all the educators, administrators, and lifelong learners watching this explainer, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. We've seen the blueprint. We know for a fact that it works. So, how will your classroom build the next chain of health? Thank you so much for exploring with us today, and keep learning.